Hi guys, it is me, Chazza HD, and welcome back to a stream on this channel. Hopefully you guys are doing well. I am doing much better than the last time I spoke to you guys in terms of me on a stream, not me in type or text form rather. Yeah, I'm doing much better. I'm in a much better mood, much better way, and I cannot wait for me to get back to doing what I really love doing, which is streaming for Formula One Grand Prix. And we have a Grand Prix this weekend that I think is going to be very exciting, and I think could be one of the races that really does decide the destiny of this year's World Championship. So this is a massive Grand Prix. It looks as though at the moment that Red Bull and Max Verstappen are going to be definitely the ones to beat if you look at what happened in Friday practice yesterday. But who knows what Mercedes could do. We've seen Mercedes do some surprising things this year considering what we thought was going to happen going out of practice into the qualifying and race sessions themselves. So it's still going to be a big fight and a close fight, I think, today in practice 3 and qualifying and in the race tomorrow. But yeah, this Grand Prix, I think, really could be the race that decides the World Championship. I think either this race or the race next weekend in Brazil, one of these two races, I think, will be the decider for the championship, because the final 3 races, two of the final 3 race tracks, we don't really know what the racing is going to be like on those circuits. And Yas Marina, the final circuit, they've got rid of a couple corners, but it's still probably going to be a very hard to overtake type circuit. So like I said, a vital Grand Prix, and I cannot wait to see what happens in this Grand Prix weekend. Of course, there's not just the World Championship. That's not just what we're looking at this weekend for the rest of the season. Also, you've got the battle for 3rd place in the Constructors between McLaren and Ferrari, the battle for 5th in the Constructors between Alpine and AlphaTauri. Plenty of fights late in the season for the championship, and that is great to see. But I just want to say, before we get into talking about who's been looking good this weekend and the results of practice 2, just to refresh some people's memories as to who is looking quick so far this weekend and who is not. I just want to thank you guys a lot for the support over the last, a month and a half it's been, really, since I said that, I was really struggling mentally and I just couldn't at the time do any streams or do anything really. And at the time, I have to say, I was in no condition to do anything content-wise. I could barely get out of bed. I just had no energy or no motivation to do anything. And like I said, couldn't get out of bed, so I had no motivation to even do that. So there was no way I could do streams. And I just want to say again, I really, really appreciate and love the messages and response I've had from you guys over the last, again, month and a half. And I really, really do appreciate it. And I will, probably in the qualifying stream later on, I am actually going to get into, I guess, a new schedule for the channel in terms of what I'm going to be doing around race weekends for the rest of this season and also from next season on, because there will be a difference, from now on, to preserve my health and to make sure that I don't, end up burning out or anything like that. So I will get into that later on today. But yeah, thank you guys so much for the support. It means a lot. You have actually no idea how much it means to me. But enough of that. And let's now get into previewing, I guess, practice 3, which at practice 3 starts in about 10 minutes time. By the way, the weather conditions, not really anything to worry about. It is hot and humid and the sun is roaring at the circuit right now and in Mexico City. But these were the results of practice 2 yesterday, and Red Bull are definitely the team to beat. There is no doubt about that whatsoever. Max Verstappen almost half a second quicker than Valtteri Bottas and Lewis Hamilton in the Mercedes, and I think Mercedes can probably find another couple tenths because their car, obviously they weren't running their car in the most aggressive way they could in terms of power levels and fuel levels, so they could obviously find more time. But if you look at how the Mercedes car was yesterday, I do think Mercedes can find another couple tenths to close that gap, but I think Red Bull still have a clear advantage over Mercedes this weekend, which we'll get into in a moment. And then Perez, who probably could have done a bit better yesterday with his laps, finishing up in 4th place, very, very close to the two Mercedes of Bottas and Hamilton. Of course, home Grand Prix, he will be, I think, a bit better overall for the weekend than he was at COTA. COTA, he was very good. Practice 3, of course, he topped that session in COTA, the last Grand Prix at the US Grand Prix. And in qualifying was very good, qualifying in 3rd place and being very, very quick. But because he had an illness during the race and was ill that day, he wasn't able to really show the speed that he could. So I think, given that it's his home race and that he's, I think, feeling a lot better, I expect Sergio Perez to be definitely, maybe not in this qualifying session coming up later tonight, but definitely in the race. I expect him to be top 3, because he is looking a lot better now than he was, say, around the Italian Grand Prix or, you know, the Dutch Grand Prix. Around that time, 2 months ago, he's looking a lot better than he was. And then Carlos Sainz in 5th, Gasly 6th, Charles Leclerc 7th, and then Tsunoda, Vettel and Alonso round out the top 10. I have to say, with Ferrari, I'm very surprised that they are so far behind Red Bull and Mercedes so far this weekend. I thought, I think many people did, and rightfully thought so, that this circuit, because of what it requires, and because of what it, you know, suits in certain types of ways, you would have thought that Ferrari this weekend would be right up there with Red Bull and Mercedes, because, you know, the racing at a very high altitude, of course, for this Grand Prix, so it really eliminates any of the real differences between the power units. I mean, of course, the Mercedes cars are looking, or the Mercedes-powered cars, rather, I should say, are looking the best, but it's not as big as it would be normally because of the, you know, high sea level that they are at for this Grand Prix. And this Grand Prix as well has always tended to suit cars who have some of the best aerodynamic packages on the grid. Now, Ferrari have probably definitely top 3 aerodynamic packages on the grid. You could argue at times they're right there with Mercedes, if not a tad better. Mercedes do have a lot more power than Ferrari have, and I think that's the real difference between the two teams. And I have to say, given that this track and the conditions, I guess you could say, for the track really do suit Ferrari a lot more than the US Grand Prix, I am very surprised Ferrari are so far behind. The closest they can get to the two Mercedes, even only, half a second or 0.6 of a second. It's really a lot of lap time to be giving away. And it's not even that long of a lap. It's only, a minute 15 probably at the shortest, or a minute 17, 18 at the longest when it comes to the lap times we'll be seeing in qualifying later. So, I'm very surprised that Ferrari are so slow so far. Maybe we'll see more today, but I'm very surprised Ferrari is so slow. And then you've got the AlphaTauris looking very, very good in 6th and 8th place. I'm a bit surprised by that, because AlphaTauri haven't always, around tracks or in conditions where you need to have a lot of grip, they haven't always been, especially as good as, say, a Ferrari or a McLaren or an Alpine. So I am surprised AlphaTauri are, looking so good there in practice too. But saying that, AlphaTauri have definitely made a significant improvement in the last 2 or 3 races to their car. And Alpine have really dropped behind, who, of course, they are their main rivals in the Constructors. And then you've got Vettel in 9th. That's a bit surprising by Sebastian. Fernando Alonso in 10th. Pretty impressive from Alonso, actually, because he only used, as you can see there, 3 sets of tyres. 2 sets were the hard compound, and 1 was the soft. So I think Alonso definitely has a lot more there to show. And then you've got Raikkonen 11th, Norris 12th, Giovinazzi 13th, then Ocon, Ricciardo, Schumacher, Stroll, Latifi, Mazepin, and Russell. Russell didn't do a lap time because he had a gearbox problem. Also, Daniel Ricciardo had a gearbox problem. I haven't seen as of yet. I'll probably try and look in a moment to see if Ricciardo or Russell have gearbox penalties. But yeah, that's why they were so low down in practice 2, and that's why Russell did not set a representative lap time in practice 2, as the F1 intro is now playing. And I'll get onto the pictures for this watch-along. So, yeah, if you look at the top of the grid, Red Bull at the moment, we'll see, of course, in practice 3 now that the engine modes can't be altered with. They have to go with what they're going to go with for the rest of the weekend, really. Now we'll see whether Mercedes yesterday were maybe saving a bit on power. We know they've had reliability concerns, a lot of reliability concerns on Mercedes-powered cars in the last 2 months. So, maybe they were saving on power. We'll have to see in this session whether they were indeed saving a bit. But I still think at this point in time, even if Mercedes do show an improvement, I still think Red Bull, with Max Verstappen, maybe not with Sergio Perez, but with Max Verstappen, Red Bull are the strongest team and are the team to beat. Their car, and we saw it at the US Grand Prix, and I did watch the Grand Prix, by the way, watched qualifying and the race in full. The Red Bull car, yeah, it doesn't have the straight line speed of the Mercedes, but it has definitely, significantly, not in a massive way, say, compared to the midfield teams, but significant enough to decide who is going to win the World Championship. Red Bull have a lot more grip right now than Mercedes do. And of course, around this circuit, grip is what you need the most. So I think Red Bull are definitely the team to beat here. And I think, we'll see what happens in qualifying later. But I think, given the car that Red Bull have compared to Mercedes, and given that Max Verstappen is leading the championship by, is it 13 points, I think, or 12 points? It's definitely Red Bull's championship to lose in terms of the Drivers' Championship. Of course, in the Constructors, as you can see on the bottom of the screen now, Red Bull are 23 points behind. So, still ground to be made up there, but they have actually, Red Bull, gained on Mercedes in the last 2 Grand Prix. So Red Bull could end up taking the Constructors yet. But in terms of the Drivers' Championship, it is Max Verstappen's and Red Bull's to lose, because Verstappen has the lead, the important lead at this point, going into the final 5 races and into this triple header. Of course, this weekend is Mexico, then it is Brazil next weekend, and then Qatar, the first ever Qatari Grand Prix in Formula 1 in 2 weeks from now. Verstappen, like I said, most importantly, has the lead, and if he can get the result that really they should get this weekend, given the conditions and the track layout, Max Verstappen should be going into the next Grand Prix with at least an 18-point lead. And if that is indeed what the lead is going into the next Grand Prix, then you have to say that Max Verstappen is not quite there in terms of winning the championship, because a lot still could happen. But he is without a doubt the favourite, without a doubt, if he does win the Grand Prix this weekend. And that's why I say that I think this Grand Prix really could decide the World Championship. Hamilton has to finish at least in second place this weekend. He cannot afford to finish any lower than second, because if he finishes even third, then Verstappen will be thinking probably that he's very nearly there in terms of winning the championship outright. But we've got, about a minute to go until the session is underway. So let me just get the graphics ready for you guys. A couple of things, by the way. One, there has been a power cut in earlier today in the area, in my area of the UK. So if that does happen at any point during the stream, please be aware that that could happen. It probably won't, but please be aware that the possibility is there. By the way, the order on the left-hand side is not the live order, because of course the session has not started yet. So yeah, that could happen, but probably won't, but just be aware of the possibility. And also, remember, I have not done this in 2 months, so if I'm a bit slow in certain aspects, then please do bear with me, because again, I haven't done this since the Italian Grand Prix. That was the last race weekend that I covered. And let me just get the timer ready as the session is underway in 3, 2, 1, and there you go. So, practice 3 is underway. No cars on circuit right now, and we'll see if Red Bull, the team on screen right now, and Sergio Perez, got to say, by the way, the Red Bull with the mix as well of the Perez livery, Perez helmet livery rather, looking very, very nice. Yeah, we'll see in this session whether Red Bull still have a comfortable gap to Mercedes, and if they do, they will be supremely confident going into the Grand Prix. Move that up slightly. And I'll just quickly as well do some research just to see if there has been any penalties for Ricciardo and Russell. I know they had gearbox problems. Yep, so 5-place grid penalty for Russell. So he will probably... He might try and get through to Q2. We'll have to see. But if he does get through to Q2 rather, I don't think that he will probably bother doing any running in Q2, because he's not going to qualify, I think, any higher than 14th or 15th on the grid. The Williams doesn't look particularly fast this weekend. I have to say, though, whilst I've been away from the channel, Williams have been really good. They scored points, was it in Russia? They've also been pretty quick as well. I mean, Williams, of course, they lined up on the second row of the grid in Russia. I will say that is a Grand Prix that I wish I did cover, because what a Grand Prix that was. But yeah, Williams have been pretty good. So nice to see there. And also, if you didn't know, that Lance Stroll and Yuki Tsunoda will both be starting from the back of the grid, because both have exceeded power unit components in terms of how many you are allowed to use. So those two will be starting at the back of the grid, probably Russell as well. So really, Q1 later, it's not going to be that exciting, because again, we know who the back three already pretty much are going to be, meaning that the two Haas's, unless Russell qualifies up in 11th or 12th or something like that, it should be the two Haas's in 16th and 17th, and then probably the two Alfa Romeos, the next two up from them. As still no cars on the circuit. Sergio Perez stood talking to his engineer, I think, and so is Lando Norris in the McLaren garage, so there's no plans for the respective drivers there on coming out onto circuit. And nice to see, by the way, a big crowd for the Mexican Grand Prix, or Mexico City Grand Prix, rather. That did kind of mess me up coming into this Grand Prix, because I'm so used to calling it the Mexican Grand Prix, but it is indeed the Mexico City Grand Prix. And the official name of next weekend's Grand Prix in Brazil, I mean, normally we'd call it the Brazilian Grand Prix, but the official name is the Sao Paulo Grand Prix. Doesn't really make a difference, but there you go. As Russell is just got into his car then. And yeah, we just await to see if there's anyone going to come out onto the circuit. And also, driving reprimands for Hamilton and Raikkonen for Turn 1 incidents in FB1. I didn't actually see what that was for. I didn't actually see what Hamilton and Raikkonen did, but just if you guys did, just to let you know that reprimands for Hamilton and Raikkonen there. And also Mazepin, but it's Mazepin. Mazepin should get a reprimand just for turning up, to be honest. And yeah, still just waiting for cars to come out onto the circuit. And by the way, whilst we are waiting, and I guess let me just quickly look, because I want to make sure that I get this right. I have some news about tomorrow's race watch along. Let's have a look. It looks like, I'm not going to absolutely confirm it because you never know what could happen in life. But it looks like, guys, tomorrow, when I do my race watch along, it will not just be me doing it, but also Nib as well. Looks as though, at the moment, it will be me and Nib covering tomorrow's Mexico City Grand Prix. Cannot wait to, do it with him again because, I have so much fun doing commentary with him. And also, we haven't talked on voice chat, I think, for a long time. I think since Silverstone or around that time, or around the summer break or something like that. So yeah, cannot wait to do that. And yeah, I think at the moment looks as though that is gonna happen. And I think the Grand Prix, if we get an exciting enough grid, I think we'll probably get a pretty good Grand Prix as well. As we do now have a car on track, and it is Yuki Tsunoda and the AlphaTauris on the soft compound tyre. It's a C4 compound, by the way, this weekend. And the soft tyre, have to say, after viewing practice 2 yesterday, it is a tyre that you do not want to be on at any point during the Grand Prix. If you have to qualify on that tyre to get into the top 10, even if you get into the top 10, you've blown, most likely, a good opportunity of a points finish, because the soft tyre around this circuit, because of the heat and humidity and the long fast corners in Sector 2, those soft tyres will go off very, very quickly. And the medium and the hard tyre is definitely a much better tyre for the Grand Prix tomorrow. And I'd say anyone staying on the soft compound tyre, they could probably do a one-stop race if they go from the soft to the hard, but they're going to lose so much time on that soft compound that they will fall away quite quickly. The soft tyre really would only be good for the first lap, as Tsunoda now rounds the final corner, and I was going to say going to start his lap, but he's come around the final corner very slowly, and I don't really think this is him starting his lap, rather just getting a feel for the conditions. He was actually saying on the first lap out that the oil is slippery. The reason he's saying that is because the marshals are about to put down a load of cement dust where oil has been spilled from a previous race. So that is why he is complaining about that. And we'll see if that has any effect on the drivers in this session or qualifying later tonight. And yeah, the marshal's just holding out a slippery track flag just to warn Tsunoda about it, even though Tsunoda's not really going that quickly, so he's not exactly going to have a moment on that slippery surface on the, certain corners. And Valtteri Bottas now we're looking at on the TV broadcast, and Bottas just getting ready, I think, for some running. He's looked pretty good this weekend as Valtteri Bottas. The last Grand Prix at the Circuit of Americas, I thought he could have done better, to be honest, Bottas. I thought his qualifying effort could have been better. Not much better, but definitely better than, I think it was at 4th place. And then in the race especially, I thought his pace was absolutely terrible. Especially in the first stint, he was absolutely terrible in the first stint to that Grand Prix. So not a good Grand Prix for Bottas in America, but the 2 previous before that, I thought were pretty good for Valtteri. Definitely the Turkish Grand Prix, he was great for that Grand Prix. As now Lance Stroll on track, another driver who will be starting at the back of the grid, or almost exactly the back of the grid, depending, of course, on where others end up with their penalties, as Yuki Tsunoda now starts a first flying lap, and great timing by Sky F1, because they now go to an ad break as soon as we start getting some action on the circuit. So we'll have to wait a couple minutes to see what happened with that lap. But I guess I'll just might as well get into it now. What the plan for the future of the channel is, definitely for the next year or so going forward. Again, I'll get into this later on as well in the qualifying stream to repeat for anyone who hasn't heard. But now they're on an ad break, I think I might as well just say it now. I will still be doing content for every race weekend for the rest of this season and for next season as well. But I won't be doing the exact same schedule for every Grand Prix from now on. So, for example, I will be doing the full Grand Prix in terms of content this weekend and next weekend. But then the third part of the triple header, the Qatar Grand Prix, I will not be doing as much content that weekend as I will be doing this weekend and for the Brazilian Grand Prix, or Sao Paulo Grand Prix rather, next weekend. So that will be something that you guys will have to get used to. But the reason I am doing this, and I will be doing it next year as well, where certain Grand Prix I'll be doing less content, because, to save myself really from just being burnt out. And I think it's the best strategy going forward for the channel and for myself. And I also should announce that there will be proper recorded content coming back to the channel. There won't be any recorded content uploaded between now and the end of the season, but I will be working on content between now and the end of the season for it to come out, say, between Abu Dhabi, the end of the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix weekend, and pre-season testing, which, of course, pre-season testing, if you don't know, will be getting underway on the, I think, 20th or 21st of February. So there will be recorded videos coming. I've got quite a few planned to come out, so I'll try and work on those and get those out. I'm probably going to try and get a couple out between the final race and New Year's Day, and then between New Year's Day and pre-season testing, get out another few for you guys to, indulge in. And maybe as well, there'll be some extra live streams on top of those during the winter, talking about the news or season review or anything like that. So there will be content, definitely winter content between the final race and pre-season testing for the 2022 Formula One season. But again, and I think it'll be easier to explain if I explain it in regards to next season. So we have 23 races next season. Most of next season's races I will cover in full. So, a practice watch-along, a qualifying watch-along, a race preview, race watch-along, and a race reaction. That will happen for most races next season. But there will be some races where I will only do, say, a race reaction or a qualifying reaction and a race reaction, rather than a full weekend of content. Again, the reason is to avoid me burning out and, not being able mentally or physically to do the content. So that will be the new schedule going forward. But in terms of content on the channel, say, for the short term, if we look at this triple header coming up, of course, this weekend Mexico, next weekend Brazil, and then in 2 weeks from now is Qatar. So, again, full content for this weekend. So, obviously, qualifying watch-along will be later on. And then race preview, race watch-along, and race reaction will be tomorrow. You'll have the same for the Sao Paulo Grand Prix, except the practice and qualifying watch-alongs will be on the Friday, because, of course, the return of the sprint on the Saturday. And then on, next Sunday for the Sao Paulo Grand Prix, again, race preview, race watch-along, race reaction. But then for the Qatar Grand Prix, there will be probably only a race reaction for that Grand Prix. Again, not because I can't be bothered, it's to save my energy for the future. So there you go. As we are back from the ads break, by the way, and we have 2 times on the board, Yuki Tsunoda is currently fastest with a... I don't actually know what his lap time is at the moment, but Russell is in 2nd position. I'll just update the picture there so you can see it better of Max Verstappen's car. And yeah, we only have 3 cars on track right now, and it is Tsunoda, Russell, and Stroll. 3 drivers who will be taking a grid penalty, so we've not really had anyone representative come out onto the circuit in terms of, you know, they can do qualifying later on without the fear of a penalty or a new gearbox or a new power component for the power unit. And so Yuki Tsunoda's lap time, by the way, at the moment is a 1:20.9, which is quite slow. But he is about to go a lot quicker as he rounds the final corner of turn 16, now through turn 17, which is a kink. And he goes 1.2 seconds quicker onto a 1:19.7. So Tsunoda, currently P1, can still go quite a bit quicker. Probably another second or second and a half, really, you'd be looking from Yuki Tsunoda there, given the AlphaTauri pace so far this weekend. And now we're just looking at a replay of Tsunoda going through turn... I can't remember what turn that is, but it is one of the turns where the oil was spilled and the cement dust is down. And definitely a lack of grip compared to yesterday in that corner, but it's nothing to be scared or alarmed about. As another car on circuit, and it is Lando Norris in the McLaren. And he is, and it says on the screen, currently outside the top 4 in the Drivers' Championship for the first time in 2021. And that is I have to say, a miracle that what he's done this season, to be so consistently good. And, you know, to be so consistently in the top 4 in the championship for so long. A brilliant job, really, from Lando Norris. And I have to say, he does deserve a race win this season. He really did deserve it in the Russian Grand Prix, let's be honest. His pole position was great. Great performance in the Grand Prix. If it stayed dry, I think Lando Norris would have won the race because the McLarens were too quick down the straights, and I don't think Hamilton would have had the speed in a straight line to get past Lando Norris in the closing laps of that Grand Prix. But ultimately made the wrong decision when it came to what tyres to be on when the rain started to fall, and ended up losing what was, I think, going to be his first race win. And it would have been fully deserved because he has been incredible this season. He really, really has. As also Kimi Räikkönen is out on the circuit. And I have to say with Norris as well, that he's not really recovered his performance since then. Because in Turkey, Turkey he wasn't too bad, but it wasn't as good as we've seen previously this season. McLaren also that weekend weren't that great, but again, Norris I thought wasn't as great as he normally has been this season. And the US Grand Prix, he was clearly slower than Daniel Ricciardo, who has improved, granted, but I think Norris has suffered a bit of a hangover from the Russian Grand Prix. And if he did get that Grand Prix win, who knows what he would have gone and done after that, because he would have had the confidence then going into the following Grand Prix and may have done even better than he has done. And he will have to tap back into that form as he comes up on the screen for us now. He will have to tap back into that form for the final 5 races because McLaren only 4 points ahead of Ferrari in the Constructors for 3rd place. So Norris has got to get back in form, or back in the type of form he was in earlier in the season. As Lando Norris, by the way, shoots up to 2nd position. There you go. I am expecting, by the way, McLaren. We didn't really talk about them before the the right front brake disc on fire there during the lap. Brakes are very, very what's the term I need to use here? Something that has to be looked after at really all times, even during qualifying. You have to look after it to a certain extent because brakes get enormously hot around this track, and they are so important as well around this track, especially at the end of this DRS straight, that Carlos Sainz in the Ferrari is heading down. As we've got a new driver at the top of the timesheets, and it is Kimi Räikkönen on a 119.2. I was going to get into McLaren and just mention that, yesterday they weren't that quick, but that's not exactly a surprise. Normally on a Friday, they don't really tend to show any real speed. They tend to show it a lot more on a Saturday more than anything. There you go, Räikkönen currently in P1 as Carlos Sainz is now backed off. I'm guessing he had a slight moment through turn 4 and 5. But, McLaren, I am expecting to be stronger today, but I don't think in regards to, and here's a replay of Sainz through turn 4, turns in, that's right where that cement dust is, and oversteered and lost a lot of time and obviously gave up on the lap and says, yeah, nice drift. And yeah, as soon as you turn into turn 4, you're going right through the cement dust. So that is going to be very tricky for the drivers today and also on the race on Sunday. Yeah, I think McLaren will improve today, their speed, compared to yesterday, where I think both drivers were outside the top 10. But compared to Ferrari, I'd be very surprised if McLaren could really get near Ferrari this weekend, because Ferrari are definitely stronger around a circuit like this compared to, say, the Russian Grand Prix track that we had, about a month ago. So I think Ferrari should be definitely stronger here than McLaren. But we've seen McLaren this season that even at tracks where McLaren aren't as good, they're still able to pull out a lot of points and get a good result. So, still possible that McLaren can get a decent result. As Lando Norris goes up to P1, and Carlos Sainz has gone 5th, even though his lap is 22 seconds off the pace. Charles Leclerc has come back into the pits because he attempted a lap, but his middle sector was very poor, and he... I think turn 8, the exit of turn 8, went through the cement dust, which is there, and lost a lot of grip and a lot of time. So that's why he has come back into the pits, probably for a new fresh set of soft compound tyres. There's a replay. And yeah, just that cement dust not having, drivers not having any grip over it, meaning that exit of that corner, very tricky and very hard now at the moment, given the condition of the circuit, not to spin. As Carlos Sainz now goes up to 4th, and Fernando Alonso goes up to 5th place. Let me just update that on screen. Alonso up to 5th. Mick Schumacher is up into 7th place. By the way, Lewis Hamilton on circuit, and he's currently on a lap. And he's in a purple first sector. And Schumacher is, 7th. Hamilton nicely misses the cement dust on the exit of turn 7. Now comes through the S's and goes really wide through turn 10 and loses a lot of lap time there. But he is still, 4/10 of a second up on Lando Norris right now. Is the Brit going for his 8th World Championship, but right now it's not looking as though he will get that 8th World Championship. But as we know from previous years, it's not over until it's over. As Lewis Hamilton now goes up to P1, about half a second clear of Lando Norris's Valtteri Bottas is now on a lap. And let me just update the rest of the order. So Giovinazzi is up to 6th place. And then you've got Alonso 7th, Russell 8th, Schumacher 9th. Mazepin is in 10th position. Bottas, by the way, much quicker on this lap compared to Hamilton. 4 tenths up in the middle sector. As Ocon actually has now gone up to 8th place. And now Valtteri Bottas, he lost quite a bit of time in the final sector. But Valtteri does go P1 by a 10th of a second. The Valtteri Bottas up into what would be, of course, later on pole position as Lando Norris. Replay of him going across the grass on in the middle, I guess you could call it, of turn 1, 2, and 3. And he locked up, went wide, and just went across the grass. Of course, Lewis Hamilton infamously did that in 2016 and somehow did not get a penalty. Don't know how. As Lance Stroll, as Sergio Perez, by the way, on the soft compound tyre, is now on his first flying lap of the session. As Lance Stroll goes up to 5th place in the Aston Martin. There you go. Stroll up to 5th. Well, not anymore, because Charles Leclerc goes up to 3rd in the Ferrari. A lot closer to the two Mercedes initially, which will boost Ferrari confidence. As Perez has done the quickest first sector. We'll see what he can do for the middle sector. And he is quite a bit down. 3.5 tenths down on Valtteri Bottas after the first 2 sectors is Sergio Perez. And now comes through the final real corner, which is turn 16, then turn 17, which is a kink. And Perez goes P1 by 0.03 of a second. So Sergio Perez is up. It's P1. And if he does that later on, Mexico will probably explode. So Perez, for the moment, in P1. And just trying to make sure I get the rest of the order correct. Alonso has gone up to 8th place, pushing Tsunoda and Sainz down to 9th and 10th. And yeah, at the moment, Sergio Perez at P1. They're just showing a slow-mo of his lap. And if Perez later today, and in the race, of course, can get involved with the Mercedes and help Max Verstappen, I think that's probably the most important thing for this Grand Prix this weekend, because if Max Verstappen's not on pole, he'll be second. That's how good Max Verstappen is around this circuit, and that's how good the Red Bull car is. So with Perez, he has to try and hold up somehow Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes in general. And if he can do that, if he can put himself in between Hamilton and Verstappen, that could be the difference in winning, Max Verstappen the Grand Prix and possibly winning the championship later on. So Perez is a very important player. And of course Bottas is as well, but I think Perez especially this weekend, given that Red Bull do look quicker. As Carlos Sainz is now up to 5th place in the Ferrari, as Ricciardo just got a nice slipstream from Lando Norris, so McLaren practicing the toe, possibly for qualifying later on. And Ricciardo does a good first sector, and now comes into the middle sector, as Pierre Gasly shoots up to 6th place in the Alpha Tauri. Charles Leclerc goes P1 on a 1:18.2, 4 tenths quicker than Sergio Perez. What a lap that is from Charles Leclerc. As Ricciardo only a tenth of a second down on Leclerc so far after the first two sectors. I think the track is really starting to rubber in now. As Ricciardo now comes around the final corner. Didn't look great, the McLaren, really, around the final corner, but he does go second, and he is, 2/10 of a second off of Charles Leclerc. So Ricciardo up to second position. There you go. As Hamilton also takes to the escape road through turn 1, 2, and 3. And it'll probably be the same thing. Yep, inside front lockup, and that is a big lockup, and he'll probably have to come back into the pits with that because that tyre will be done for and will not see the light of day again. But I'm interested to see, and also Fernando Alonso doing the same, but on the medium compound tyre, not on the soft. So Alpine saving tyres, I think, for qualifying later on. But, yeah, with Ferrari, I think that's got to be the team I'm most interested in this session to see whether they can improve and get a lot closer to Mercedes and Red Bull in this session. Because, like I said, Ferrari, they should be performing a lot better at this circuit than they were yesterday. They shouldn't be a second off the pace. They really should not be. So it will be interesting to see whether Ferrari do improve massively now that they have to be a lot more representative in the power levels they use and also the fuel load that they use as well. As Max Verstappen, by the way, has started his first flying lap of the session as Sebastian Vettel goes up to 6th place. Vettel has looked pretty good this weekend, despite not really performing that well in the last couple races, I have to say. Sergio Perez now goes back to the top of the timesheets on a 1:17.9. That is a couple tenths of a second, I think, quicker than Charles Leclerc. Max Verstappen has not done a purple first sector, but the first sector is not the most important sector. The most important sector is the middle one. And for the middle sector, he is 4/10 of a second up, so he's easily going to go P1 as long as he doesn't make a mistake. And AlphaTauri ahead goes off slightly, trying to let him through into the final couple corners now. And into turn 16, where the tyres at this point are crying. And Verstappen comes to the line and does go P1 by 4/10 of a second on a 1:17.5. And says, beat that to the rest of the field. And to be honest, I don't think he'll have to go out again. If he didn't want to, I mean, of course they're going to keep him out there for reasons of data. But if they wanted to, pit him and not bring him back out again to save on wear, they could do that and end up P1, I think, probably with that lap. Because, I mean, he's a second clear already of the two Mercedes in this session. And the track doesn't seem in as good condition today as it was yesterday. So, yeah, brilliant lap there from Max Verstappen. And he is miles clear of the rest of the field. And I'll just finalise the rest of the order as we're about halfway through, or just over halfway through this session, as Carlos Sainz is now up to 4th place. So 3rd and 4th for Ferrari. And Ferrari looking a lot better today so far than they looked yesterday. And I have to say, in regards to Mercedes, if you watched yesterday's session, Mercedes, I mean, they didn't do too bad in terms of their position, but their car looked pretty poor. The rear end on the Mercedes is nowhere near as good as the Red Bull. You can see it visually on board. The Mercedes rear end is very just all over the place. And the Red Bull rear end, a lot more stable. And I think that's the key difference right now aerodynamically between the two. As, currently with 25 minutes to go, Verstappen is P1 from Perez 2nd and Leclerc 3rd. Sainz 4th. Daniel Ricciardo 5th, and then Bottas, Hamilton, 6th and 7th. Bottas, though, on another lap and 0.3 of a second quicker in the first sector, but the first sector is not the most important sector. And then you've got Gasly P8, Vettel P9, and Raikkonen in P10. Lando Norris in P11, and then Stroll, Giovinazzi, Alonso is in 14th, and then Tsunoda, Ocon, Schumacher, Mazepin, Latifi, and Russell. That is your current order. As Valtteri Bottas has lost quite a bit of time to Max Verstappen in the middle sector, but he is still within 0.5 of Max so far on this lap, as Valtteri Bottas now comes around the final corner and comes to the line as Giovinazzi goes up to 10th on a 1:19.1. Bottas goes 2nd, but is still about 1.5 to 0.2 of a second down on Verstappen. So there you go, Bottas up to 2nd, and Giovinazzi is up to P10. And by the way, if my throat gets sore at any point, I mean, you guys won't be surprised because it's me. It wouldn't be a Chazza HD stream if it wasn't. If you didn't hear the sound of me clearing my throat, or sounding like a heavy metal singer, as Bottas is just showing a replay of his lap. And no, I was just going to say quickly, to anyone new watching, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more content like this, because I will be live later tonight for the qualifying watch-along for the Mexico City Grand Prix, and tomorrow as well for the race preview, race watch-along, and race reaction for, again, the Mexico City Grand Prix from, of course, Mexico City. So don't forget to sub for that. Bottom right of the screen, you can do it right there, or just go to my channel page if that's easier and do it then. Whilst you're there, hit the notifications bell as well. Don't forget to smash this like button. And share this video and channel everywhere you can. That would be great if you could. Of course, helps the channel grow. As Sebastian Vettel, who I was saying a few moments ago, has looked pretty good this weekend. He's coming back into the pits, actually. Yeah, he's doing pretty well at the moment. He's in the top 10. He's ahead of not the two McLarens. He's ahead of one of the McLarens. He's on lap time, looking pretty good so far. I'm quite surprised, to be honest, with Aston Martin and how good they've looked, because I would have thought this Grand Prix would have been a Grand Prix where Aston Martin would be really struggling, to be honest, to get near the top 10. As Max Verstappen, after Valtteri Bottas got kind of close to Max on lap time, Max Verstappen goes out there, bangs in another great lap, even though his middle sector was not an improvement on his first lap. And Max Verstappen improves to a 1:17.2, and he is now 0.5 of a second clear of the rest of the field. Like I said, Max Verstappen at the moment is untouchable in that car and in his current form. And of course, with his level of talent, as there is work going on to the back of the Ferrari, and engine cover being removed at Alfa Romeo for Kimi Raikkonen's car. So, and yeah, most cars right now are in the pits. The only cars on track are Verstappen, who's just finished a time. Gasly has just pitted. Vettel is on an outlap. Giovinazzi is on track and has just actually gone up to 8th place. And then Lance Stroll is on an outlap as well. Just going to quickly mute my microphone. Just had to deal with something there. An annoying cat is the answer to that. As Max Verstappen has come into the pits. And yeah, the only cars on circuit right now is Giovinazzi, Gasly, and Vettel, who are 8th, 9th, and 10th. And we have, 21 minutes to go. So I'm actually going to quickly mute my microphone again, just to quickly blow my nose, because I'm nursing a bit of a cold, and also it's winter, so, I mean, having a cold during the winter is a normal thing, really. I'm just going to quickly wipe my nose and blow it, as we're now on an ad break as well, so I'll be back in just a moment. And there you go. Should be better now. And yeah, on an ad break in a moment. So the running order with 20 and a half minutes to go in practice 3, the final practice session of the weekend. Max Verstappen is currently P1 by half a second. Bottas second, Perez third, Leclerc fourth, Carlos Sainz in fifth. And then Ricciardo sixth, Hamilton in P7, Giovinazzi eighth, Gasly ninth, Vettel 10th. And then the rest of the order is Raikkonen, Norris, Stroll, Alonso, Tsunoda, Ocon, Schumacher, Mazepin, Latifi, and Russell. That is your order going into the final 20 minutes here. And I have to say, based on what we've seen so far, and overall for the weekend, you'd have to say Red Bull are looking quicker than anyone else still. I think that's pretty clear to see. I'd still probably say Mercedes second, and then Ferrari third, and then fourth. It's probably a battle between AlphaTauri and McLaren. And then after that, I mean, you could argue Alfa Romeo are in there to get possibly into the top 10. So looking pretty tight between, AlphaTauri, Aston Martin, McLaren, Alfa Romeo, and Alpine as well. I don't think Alpine have done much representative running this weekend generally. They've used a lot less tyres than a lot of other teams. So Alpine have a lot more to show yet. I think Alpine really around a circuit like this, and given the altitude and all of that, you'd be expecting Alpine to be a bit better than 14th and 16th here. So we'll see what happens with them. We're looking pretty close, I have to say, the top 3 teams being this weekend Red Bull, Mercedes, and Ferrari. And let me just quickly see if there's any news we had on Twitter regarding the session that I need to inform you guys about. And there is some new news. And this is from about an hour ago. Lando Norris will start from the back of the grid tomorrow after McLaren decided to take a new power unit. Yeah. Apparently McLaren already had a new power unit for Norris in mind for this Grand Prix, given that I think they probably didn't expect to be that quick this weekend, and also they haven't really proven to be that quick either. So Lando Norris will be having a new power unit for this Grand Prix. So you've got Norris, Stroll, Tsunoda, and Russell, who will be starting at the final 4 positions most likely for the Mexico City Grand Prix. Like I said, Q1, I don't think it's going to be that exciting of a session, given the amount of cars already with penalties as they now return from the ad break. And Charles Leclerc, replay of him, and cutting massively turn 2, I have to say, and then spinning on the exit turn 3. Leclerc and his second attempt at an improvement on 4th place has failed. So Charles Leclerc probably be fine to do another lap. I mean, I don't think he's really damaged the tyres that much with that spin. He hasn't locked them up really massively. So he should be fine, Charles, to go for another lap on those tyres, but he may still just come back into the pits. We'll have to see. And yeah, has he come back into the pits for a new fresh set of tyres? I don't know. No, I don't think he has. So he's just come back into the pits, I think, to do a practice start at the exit of the pit lane. And now we're looking at Lewis Hamilton back out on track on a new, fresh set of soft tyres. And, well, we've got to see an improvement here from Hamilton for sure. I mean, for himself, really, because he needs the confidence going into qualifying. Because currently sat in, 7th place and about 1.2, 1.3 seconds, I think, off the pace. That's not going to be a great confidence boost really going into qualifying. So, got to see something here from Hamilton that boosts the confidence, because if he ends up behind his team mate or, in 4th or 5th place, I think Hamilton will be very downbeat going into the session. As he now starts his lap, opens the DRS and heads down now to turn 1. And let's hope we don't make a mistake. And no, there was a bit of a stutter on turning. The car didn't turn in on one fell swoop. And opens the DRS yet again. And the rear end was a bit all over the place on the exit of turn 3. And he has not improved his first sector. And really, from what I've seen so far, I'm not surprised he's not improved his first sector. Because his first sector did not look that steady. And yeah, rear end looks quite wacky, I have to say, at the moment. As Hamilton now into the middle sector. And the car it just doesn't look good. It just does not look good. He's improved his middle sector, but he's still half a second down on Max Verstappen. But you can just see it on board. The car just does not look comfortable and looks nowhere near as good as the Red Bull. The Red Bull looks way more stable. And Mercedes, I think, will be hoping that they can... And he goes third. Goes third, but that was not a good-looking lap from Lewis Hamilton. They'll be hoping to be 2nd and 3rd, I think, on the grid. Never mind fighting for pole position, because that car looks very, very uncomfortable, to say the least. As Russell goes up to 12th place in the Williams. There you go. As Norris, he locks up his inside front into turn 1 and goes across the escape road yet again between turn 1, 2 and 3. And will probably come back into the pits because there will be a slight flat spot on that tyre, meaning the tyre's not in its best condition. And let me just check the rest of the order is correct. Not quite, as Russell is up to P12. Nicholas Latifi is up to 15th. And then you've got Alonso, Tsunoda, Ocon, and then Schumacher and Mazepin. As Kimi Raikkonen is now on another lap. And he's improved his first sector. Let's see what his middle sector is like. Bit of movement in between turn 9 and 10. And now his middle sector, he's 9/10 of a second behind Max Verstappen so far on this lap. So he'll probably go up to 8th place with this lap if he continues like this. And Raikkonen through the final corner. And he does indeed go up to P8, 1.3 seconds behind Max Verstappen. Now for Romeo, 8th and 9th. Very, very rare they've been in a position like that this season. But I have to say, they have improved their car in the second half of the season. It's definitely a lot quicker than it was, but they're still not quite as good performance-wise as I think they really should be, given that I don't think they have that bad of a car. I just think they're unable as a team to produce when they need to. Sorry, just blowing my nose there. If you hear any unexpected silence, and that's what that is. As they're just showing a replay of Charles Leclerc having another bit of a messy lap, going almost into a spin between turn 4 and 5. As talking of Charles Leclerc, he is now behind his teammate Carlos Sainz, who is up in 5th place now. And Raikkonen has had... No, he's not had his lap time deleted, but he has been overtaken by his teammate Antonio Giovinazzi. And Yuki Tsunoda now finds himself up in 9th position. So Tsunoda up to 9th, Raikkonen 10th, Gasly P11, and then Lando Norris is in 12th place, Vettel 13th, Russell 14th, and then Stroll, Latifi, Alonso, Ocon, Schumacher, Mazepin. Lots of cars, though, now on track. In fact, every single car is on track except for Max Verstappen as we enter the final 10.5 minutes of practice 3. And Perez only 0.04 of a second down on Max Verstappen after the first 2 sectors. So he should go second with this lap. As Perez into the final corner as Mick Schumacher goes up to 15th in the Haas. Sergio Perez comes to the line and does go second, 0.5 down on teammate Verstappen. But Red Bull, 0.5 second clear with both cars ahead of the rest of the field. If they can have that in qualifying, then they pretty much then got the race sewn up. Because that type of pace is quite hard to keep up with around this track especially. So yeah, 1-2 for Red Bull, 3-4 for Mercedes, 5-6 for Ferrari. And really, Mercedes looking more so in their mirrors back at Ferrari than looking ahead to Red Bull at this current moment in time. As Pierre Gasly is now up to 8th place. So Gasly up to 8, Giovinazzi 9th, Tsunoda 10th, and then Raikkonen and Norris on the fringes of the top 10, as there is some work going on to the rear end, I think diffuser of the Red Bull of Max Verstappen, and also rear floor of Max Verstappen, as Daniel Ricciardo now on another lap. He's currently sat up in 7th place. Not too bad, as there's plenty of cars trying to get out of the way of Ricciardo, and thankfully they have got out of the way of him so far. But we know that there's plenty more chances for Ricciardo to be blocked on this lap, especially in the final sector. And Ricciardo has backed off on this lap, clearly feeling as though he was blocked a bit on that attempt. As Lando Norris up to 7th. Fernando Alonso finally goes onto a set of soft compound tyres, so let's see what Fernando can do. And Fernando only 0.5 second behind Max Verstappen after the first 2 sectors. This is a very good attempt. Commentators curse. As soon as I say that, at turn 12, he goes off the circuit, then goes very wide at turn 13. It's a shame, because if he kept it on the track, I think he probably would have gone up to 6th or 7th place with this lap, and it only goes P14, but there is a lot more in that car than what was shown just then. So Alonso up to 14th. Also, Lance Stroll goes up to P8. And yeah, Alonso ran wide at 12. And the problem is, if you run wide at that corner, even if it's slightly too wide, it then messes you up immediately for the next corner, because by the time you've got your car back on track and all sorted, pointing in the right way, you're having to brake straight away for the next corner. The tyres are dirty and it just messes you up for the rest of the sector. So it is a corner, turn 12, that you've got to get right. It's one of the most important corners on the circuit. And it's a corner that we commonly see cars going wide at. But yes, Stroll is up to P8. And then Alonso is now 14th. And Russell is 16th, ahead of Mick Schumacher. And yeah, it looks as though Williams and Haas are bringing up the rear of the field for this Grand Prix this weekend. No real surprise there. That's normally the case, especially in the races. I know in qualifying sometimes there's Alonso given a lap time deletion, I think, for going off track there, even though it did not actually help him. So that's not really that fair, but at least it's consistent, I guess. As, yeah, he drops back down to 18th place. But Alonso has a lot more pace in his car. There is no doubt about that. As Daniel Ricciardo goes up to P7. So he's gone for another lap and worked out for him. And then Esteban Ocon has gone 15th. I don't know what tyre he was on, though. I'd be curious to find out. As Yuki Tsunoda goes up to P6. That's a very good attempt by Yuki, even though he will be taking a penalty for the Grand Prix. And Sergio Perez goes for another lap. This is probably going to be Perez's final attempt in practice 3 before the real show later on. And Perez at the moment looking as though he is a contender for getting on the front row of the grid. Probably still not a contender for pole position, because that belongs at the moment, by the looks of it, to only one man. But Perez looking very good for, I think, second place. As Sergio Perez now into the middle sector, now through turn 7 and turn 8. The middle sector is without a doubt the sector where Red Bull are at their best and have the biggest advantage over the rest. And he is actually purple in the middle sector and a 10th up on Max Verstappen, as he gets, as always, a massive cheer in the stadium section, the final sector. Also, the final sector, the Red Bull is very, very good and definitely the best in that sector as well. But the middle sector especially is where Red Bull are doing their work. And he does indeed go P1 by 0.2 of a second, but Max Verstappen is back out on track on an outlap, so that might not last very long. Lewis Hamilton is up to third, but I repeat, both Mercedes are 6.5 tenths off the pace of Red Bull. I would be very surprised if Mercedes could close that gap in qualifying, and I don't think they are sandbagging that much. And it looks as though, at the moment, you'd have to say it's Red Bull's race to lose. They are easily quicker than anyone else. It's very similar to 2018, where Red Bull were easily the two quickest cars on circuit. And of course, that Grand Prix, Max Verstappen went on to win very easily from the rest of the field. And even lapped, I think, everyone from 6th place back at least 2 times. And that could happen on Sunday, given the pace of the Red Bull so far, as Max Verstappen improves his first sector, but it's not quite as good as Sergio Perez's. Oh, bit of a rear end loss there through turn 5. That would have cost him probably a 10th of a second, say at most. And now into the middle sector. And the reason the Red Bull is so good in this middle sector is clear. The rear end. The rear end of that Red Bull is the best on the grid. And yeah, he has lost quite a bit of time in Sector 2. So Max Verstappen, I think, will end this session in second place, which of course he will not want to end qualifying in second place, even if it is to Perez, because he wants to make sure of pole position. As Verstappen comes to the line and yet goes half a second slower than the Sergio Perez does Max Verstappen. But yeah, the reason the Red Bull is so quick is, again, the middle sector. And the middle sector, you have to have a rear end that does not step out of line and is smooth the whole way through. And the Red Bull's rear end is smooth and is not really giving the drivers any real surprises. And also, Max, in the first sector, he lost the rear end slightly in the exit of turn 3. Not as much as Charles Leclerc, but enough to lose him a 10th or 10th and a half on the exit there. But yeah, the rear end of the Red Bull car being so good is why they are so good this weekend, and why in the middle sector especially, they are miles better than anyone else. But even the front end of the Red Bull car is very, very good. Not as good as the rear end, I think, aerodynamically speaking. That the rear end of the Red Bull car is why they are so good right now. And it's why they are leading the Drivers' Championship with Max Verstappen, because that's really why Verstappen has been able to get back into the lead of the Drivers' Championship, is because the Red Bull car has been very good aerodynamically in the last couple Grand Prix. And right now, it's giving them a massive advantage to the rest. As Carlos Sainz is currently on an outlap and is about to start, I think, his final lap of the session. And now comes down, or no, he's not really going for a fast lap here because he has not got the DRS open, so this won't be a lap that puts him any higher up the order. But really, I think you'd have to say that Ferrari probably still a bit disappointed with their performance, but they're looking a bit closer to Mercedes at the minute than they were yesterday. And like I said, with Mercedes, given the pace difference right now, you'd have to say that they'd probably be more looking in their rearview mirror at Ferrari than looking ahead to Red Bull, because Red Bull are not just quicker, they are miles quicker to the point where it's not even competitive at the moment. I do stress at the moment, because you never know. In qualifying, we've seen Mercedes plenty of times turn the tide in their favour, but if this pace translates into qualifying, the Mercedes have absolutely no chance of getting pole position. And that, of course, would be a disaster. If Mercedes could not even get on the front row, that would be an absolute disaster for them. Because even, yes, down to turn 1 on the first lap with slipstream and their extra straight line speed, yeah, it would be an advantage. But if they don't get into the lead, Red Bull will then just easily pull away. As the session is now over, and I'll just make sure to finalise the finishing order of this session. The top 10 is, I think, right. Let me just put Raikkonen ahead of Giovinazzi there. And then Alonso up in 15th place. Alpine definitely have a lot more to show than that. 15th and 16th. I think Alpine are a lot better than that. I think they're actually probably, with Alonso, a possible top 10 contender when they get the lap right. But practice 3, guys, is over. And this is your final finishing order. Perez P1. If he finishes there in qualifying, what a day we're going to have here in Mexico. Max Verstappen second. Verstappen can go quicker. He made a mistake on his final lap, so I think Verstappen is still the man to beat in terms of fighting for pole position. Hamilton third, Bottas fourth. Mercedes have a lot of work to do. I'm not sure they can do enough in the 3-hour break to qualifying to really repair the damage there, or 2-hour break, sorry, to qualifying to repair the damage in terms of the pace difference between them and Red Bull. Carlos Sainz fifth, and then Tsunoda, Ricciardo, Gasly, Leclerc and Norris round out the top 10. And your rest of the order, Stroll, Raikkonen, Giovinazzi, Vettel, Alonso, Ocon, Russell, Schumacher, Latifi and Mazepin. That is your finishing order, guys, for practice 3. Thank you guys for coming on to this stream. Again, if you are new, don't forget to subscribe. Bottom right of the screen, you can do it right there, or just go to my channel page. And whilst you're there, hit the notifications bell. Don't forget to smash the like button and share this video and channel everywhere you can. And as well, don't forget to join my Discord server, link below in the description for that. And as well, don't forget to join me, guys, in, when will it be? I think 7 p.m. UK time. So in what? Not 7 p.m., 7:30 p.m. UK time. Join me in an hour and a half from now at 7:30 p.m. UK time for the qualifying watch-along for the 2021 Mexico City Grand Prix. Make sure to be there and tune in to what could be a very important session, deciding possibly the destiny of the championship if Mercedes and Red Bull continue their current pace going into qualifying. So again, don't forget to join me for that. And guys, until that stream, it has been me, Chazza HD. Goodbye.